Hi, everyone. It's Christine with Momspiration412, founder of EduPlay. Welcome to our weekly show, Motherhood Challenging Yet Rewarding. And I'm super excited to welcome my special guest tonight, Pamela. Hi, Pamela.
Hi, Christine. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Yes, thank you for joining. I am very, very excited about this topic because I fall into the category a lot of our guests where, we are saying yes to a lot of things and, it can lead to a lot of overwhelm. And I am so excited to learn a lot of what you have to offer tonight.
Yes, definitely. Boundaries been a big thing for me too. Most of my life, I used to be a big people pleaser. So I can definitely relate to, saying yes all the time too.
Yes.
And I'm happily kind of on the other side now, but looking back, I definitely have to say that it was a big part of my life to say yes all the time.
I think for me, it's a big part of not missing out. So that FOMO, fear of missing out is like huge for me. Like I will say yes to 3 events in one day because I want to make sure I'm there. And I made it very much a part of my 2020 goal. As we were just talking before this, how everyone was like making those big goals for 2020. And then here we are just kind of at a standstill. So little did I know that that goal of saying no more often was going to be very, very easy.
Yeah. Timing was definitely on your side this time.
Yes, yes. Hi, everyone. So if you guys are hopping on, I'm going to check here on my comments and see who is here. I'm also, as we progress through our evening, I think at the end, I will do the winner um, for our Amazon gift card winner. So we will do our little interview. And if you guys are here, hi, Jessica. If you guys are here, let us know who's here. And our big question was, are you guys saying yes to things, right? What was the question we asked, Pamela?
Yeah, do you find yourself saying yes to things or people very often?
And then if not, if you say no, do you feel guilty? Because I know for sure I definitely do that as well. Like if I do say no to someone, then I feel like, oh, honey, should I have really said no? Like I literally have to have absolutely like a jam-packed schedule for me to say no and not feel guilty. But if I'm like busy with my own things, I very much easily will say, all right, I'll put those things off to the side and say yes to you. But then I'm kind of upset about it, because I really should have said no.
Yeah. Yes,
So I'm very
exactly.
excited. So go ahead. Tell us, share us some tricks because I'm excited to learn from you. So do you
Yes.
want to tell a little bit about yourself first?
Yes. Well, first of all, hello to everybody that it's live on with us tonight. I know that you're there. I don't see you, but I know you're there. So hi, everybody, and the ones who are looking or maybe watching the replay at another time. So hi to all of you. So I'm Pamela Biasca Losada. So my background is psychology. But I decided to practice as a health and emotional empowerment coach because I find it much more rewarding and also much more fun for me instead of a traditional psychology. So I've been practicing as a health and emotional empowerment coach for several years and very excited about that. I just love it. And I deal a lot with people that kind of had the same issues I had, which was a lot to do with not having much boundaries, over, among other things. But I know tonight this is the topic, but I definitely came a long way because my part of my past was also being a people pleaser, beside being a high achiever. So kind of always wanting to do a lot of things and say yes to everybody. Not It was really not expected in my situation. I know in some situation it is kind of expected, but in my situation it was really just me wanting to do everything, and I felt okay with doing it. So it was not like that I felt bad about it, but there was several occasions when I knew that, as you shared earlier, Christine, like I can totally relate, where I knew that, I say yes, and then I'm like feeling like really like angry, frustrated at myself and like really almost like, why did you even say that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then it just goes on and on in my head, kind of a loop,
Yes.
replaying, I should have said this, I should have done that, like, just an ongoing thing, like a movie, and I keep on like automatic replay. And it's exhausting. It's
Yes,
frankly exhausting.
it is. And I've definitely, I mean, I've experienced that just recently, even, because even though we have all this time, it's going very fast. And we were just talking about that, like how it's already June 1st and we really haven't said yes to many things, but now things are starting to come up. And I think maybe you're getting to that point where it's like, I didn't finish X, Y, and Z. So now I got to like really do it before things start opening up again. So now really finding a way to kind of set those boundaries, maybe even for health reasons, trying to stay
Yeah.
safe during all this time, but also for just your sanity.
Yeah, exactly. Because, there is so many side effects in a negative way when you're not having healthy boundaries. And when you're really, saying yes to others. And in the meantime, or at the same time, you're actually saying no to yourself. So when you're becoming aware of that, saying yes to others means saying no to yourself. Can you imagine when you say no to yourself? That doesn't sound very, very
Mm-mm.
promising, right? Because eventually something is going to give. It could be your health, it could be your relationship, it could be, and when I say health, could be physically, emotionally, or mentally, or maybe a combination of the different things, because we do need time for ourselves and recharge our batteries.
Mm-hmm.
And we should be able to do so without feeling guilty at the same time, right? That's kind of the purpose here, to really make sure that you valuing yourself enough that you feel okay with saying no, and
Mm-hmm.
feeling okay saying yes to yourself. It's just part of who you are becoming and
Mm-hmm.
who you are eventually when you pay more attention to these things and become more aware.
Yes. Yes. And it is hard. It really is. It's hard to, especially as moms. And I know your daughter's older now, but we were all in this phase where it's very hard to say yes to ourselves, to give ourselves that break and that grace that we need, because we need to recharge ourselves to be good for everyone else, you know? And why do we feel we need to say yes for everyone else? But then just like you said, why are we saying no to ourselves? So,
Yes, those are the bigger questions. And I think, it really starts, one of the ways that's very important to look at this with is really looking at, the fact that we are really responsible to, for our own health and well-being. Nobody
mm,
really is, else. So it's really us. So it's our job and our responsibility to make sure that's happening. And, even if we just want to be of service to others, which a lot of people are, right? And even just us as moms, right? Just without going, outside our family, we are already, are of service of so many, in so many situations, including our
mm,
children and our spouses. Um, but the main thing is really thinking about, wanting to make changes now, just making the kind of a promise to yourself that you want to start taking care of yourself more. You want to start saying yes to yourself more. And it's a conscious choice we have to make, and it has to become a must, not something like, oh, when XYZ happens, then I will start taking care of myself.
mhm,
And I hear very often, when my kids are off to college, or out of the house, I will start taking care of myself. Or when this other thing is gone, or
right.
something else is no longer there. You always kind of push it, depending on something on the outside. And then, of course, when we think that way, we never really do it. And it when it comes to setting boundaries, this analogy always comes up, and everybody kind of knows about this because it happens all the time when you're flying. That the flight attendants always says at the beginning of every flight that you have to put your oxygen mask first before assisting others. And this is a
Mhm,
perfect example to, for us as moms and women who tend to, take care of everybody else first before ourselves, that we keep that in mind, because there is really a theory behind this. So it's not just made up.
Mhm.
When they say it, it makes sense. We cannot be of service if we are not really recharge our own batteries and feel good about ourselves. And so it really starts with us. So we have to make that choice, because then all the other tools and strategies are not going to be working, no matter which one they are, if we're not consciously deciding to make it happen. And yes, it's not going to be easy at the beginning, because we have to go out of our comfort zone over and over again, but by doing baby steps, and it gets easier over time. So I know that because I've lived it. So I know it gets easier to the point that it's just the way you become, and you make choices. You can say yes to certain things, and you can say no to certain things, and you're just totally fine with your decisions.
Mhm.
As long as your self-care is always kind of up here, right here.
Right.
Like it always needs to be at the top of the priority. As soon as it goes down the ladder of the priority list, you will notice that you're stretching yourself and spreading yourself too thin, and start saying yes to more
Yep.
things that you know and you regret immediately when you are in that place.
Wow. So what are some of those ways then? What are some things that we can do then to kind of help us?
Yes, so a couple is I kind of already mentioned, but I can definitely elaborate. So definitely started very first thing, really making the decision to wanting to do this.
Mm.
So really coming from a place, this is what I deserve. I am responsible for my own well-being.
Yes.
And I need to decide, do I want to spread myself too thin, or just, neglect myself, because that's what we're actually doing, or
Hmm.
not, right? So nobody can make that decision, except you, right?
Right.
And so when you have that decision, everything starts shifting, because then you're being more mindful. You are just, pausing before even giving an answer, yes or no. We're just
Hmm.
thinking more through it. It's like, does it make sense? Is this serving me? If I say yes or if I say no, right?
Yeah.
Um, how am I feeling about it, before just jumping into, oh, yes, 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 right? Without really thinking it through.
Hmm.
If it's something that I will regret as soon as I say yes, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then the other piece is also, and then I will add a third one that I want to share tonight. But it's thinking about in terms of comfort zones, because when you're so used to saying yes all the time, or most of the time, this is really your comfort zone. So saying no becomes uncomfortable, because we are
Yeah.
not used to it. It's just learning any new habits. It is a little hard at the beginning. It might be scary at the beginning. There's a lot of fear that may come up, a lot of guilt that may come up, and other negative feelings. And so it's just slowly venturing out of this comfort zone, and building this new habit, so that we can actually be more confident. We are learning and growing more as we go out of our comfort zone, like in little baby steps at a time. And the more we do it, like with any other habits, not just this one, it becomes easier. It eventually becomes second nature if we stick to it and we just keep doing it. And we realize ultimately too that it becomes not only easier, but it becomes natural. And we also notice that it it's not detrimental. We start saying yes. You might get some pushback,
Hmm.
but not all the time. So there's a situation where I think it's actually going to be worse if I say yes and nothing really happens,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah, and if you get pushbacks, this is expected, because honestly, we have done all the work to make that happen. If we keep saying yes, some people got used to this.
Hmm.
So obviously they're like, also, well, what's happening? Where is this coming from? Like they also feel like you are a different person, because they're so used to you saying yes all the time. So keeping that in mind, that you might get the pushback also because you have changed, and that change was unexpected. And
Ah,
so it's not because
yes.
you said something wrong, right? Or you're just
Yeah.
retracting and say, oh no, sorry. It's because you're showing up in a different way. and
Mhm.
people need some time to get used to that too, right? And they eventually all will, but it might require some transition and
Right.
some time to let everybody be on the same page.
Yeah.
um, and the other thing, what's very important, it's all kind of, and something you mentioned earlier too, as far as the feelings, when you start feeling guilty, when you start having negative feelings, there's a lot to do with people pleasing and saying yes all the time. So, because there is a reason, and usually also a variety of reasons why we do it. And so it's just really understanding, what's behind the scenes and how does this makes us feel.
Hmm.
And so when we start looking a little bit more deeper, how we're actually feeling, in a situation where we maybe say yes when we want to say no. Like what's really going on? Why are we doing it? What feelings are coming up?
Hmm.
Beside maybe guilt, might could be also something else. It could be frustration. It could be, this longing for acceptance, or validation from the external world, right? Instead of finding validation within us, which is the
Hmm.
healthier way, we are looking externally to build ourselves up, right?
Right.
Or feel good about ourselves. And so
Hmm.
that happens very often when we tend to say yes more than no, because it's really, kind of looking outside of us most of the time to get things accomplished, and that usually doesn't end well.
Right.
Over time, all of it's just a kind of a snowball effect of things that are happening because of it. And when we start looking inward and actually finding within us the value, the worth, our self-worth, and also how making us feel good, that's really, we can do it ourselves coming from the inside, and that's the healthier way. And
Hmm.
those are important things to pay attention to. And we always, we not always, but we often tend to neglect our feelings, especially the negative ones. Ignore them, push them down, release
Yeah.
them, like pretending they're not there, especially in a situation also like this one, where we tend to say yes, but it's like, oh, now I feel maybe frustrated or angry or guilty at
Hmm.
either myself or the other person, or the situation, what's happening in the world. And then we just dismiss it. We're just, oh, I cannot feel negatively, let's feel positive, and that's okay. There's worse things in the world. Like we start kind of
Yeah.
almost like justifying
Yep.
and having excuses around it, so we feel like that it's okay, I can deal with it, even if I suffer. And if
Right.
I neglect myself in the process and will have consequences, we'll still like manage to justify it. And we really don't acknowledge our feelings, at the same time, while we're doing all of this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's so true. I mean, it's often to say yes and just to make someone else feel better or feel like, well, I have to do this, and then it's kind of, putting things off to that you needed to get done, which
Yeah.
often happens to me. And then I get that overwhelmed feeling. So I really liked a lot of what you were saying, even in your bio, how it's, these people have come to you with these overwhelmed feelings, and then you're able to kind of show them a different way, which is amazing. So I really, really love, just setting up those healthy boundaries because it's so important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's everything looks so much brighter. You feel so much better. You feel more accomplished too, because you just feel better, and you become more efficient in the things that you're actually doing. Um,
Hmm.
and even people around us are respecting that, because you know when we always give and overgive, that becomes also, we're like something that's not really our true self, so we're really off path, and we are not in alignment anymore with our like authentic selves. And so we're really not able to be who we really are. Eventually we become kind of another person, in
Yeah,
some
yeah.
ways, because we are losing ourselves in the process. And that was what was happening to me. And I didn't even know it, because that's the thing. You become so used to it, to a certain way of doing. And kind of deep down, it's not quite right. There's something that's off,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't really know what it is until you kind of see the other side. And looking backwards, it's like, oh yeah, now I get it.
Yep.
Now I know actually how it should be, how happiness is supposed to be looking like, and how your life is supposed to be looking like. And still, you can still be of service. You can still
Mm-hmm.
say yes to things, but it's just you have a different lens and a different filter,
Mm-hmm.
while you're making those decisions, because you always put yourself first, and your self-care first, and you're okay with it. You're not feeling guilty. It's not selfish. That's the only way. We have one life in
Yeah.
one body, and we want to make sure we do the best with it that we can, so we can really thrive, and at the same time being a great role model.
Yeah.
Because I know you're working a lot with moms with and parents with younger children. And I think, when we are not doing ourselves as a favor by saying yes to everybody else and neglecting ourselves, we are modeling the exact same behavior to our children. And we
Mm-hmm.
don't do it on purpose, obviously. Maybe that's how were raised, and we saw that in our parents, right? It's kind of goes on generationally.
Yes.
But it's something to be aware of, because we see often the same pattern in the children, and you who had no idea
Right.
that this was happening, because you were just thinking, well, this is just you. Well, guess what? Now there's other
Yep.
people watching. And then
Yep.
you're just, slowly but surely end up having this, seeing the same, like the reflection of you in your
Mm-hmm.
children, or maybe one of the children. If you have multiple, might not be all the same, but usually the more sensitive one is the one that picks up the same pattern. And I'm an emotionally sensitive person also, so we kind of tend to pick up on those things and be more the let's help everybody,
Right. Right.
which is great. Nothing against it by any means, but not when your health is compromised,
Exactly.
because of it. And your well-being, it is too. So that's where it then needs to change
Yep.
dramatically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you feel like you are constantly just, it's almost like on a hamster wheel. You just keep
Yeah.
going and going and doing things for everyone else. Your things keep getting put on the back burner. And that
Yeah.
took a long time for me to kind of, and I'm still learning and I'm still trying to kind of get off of that sometimes. But it kind of took a long time to say, you know what, like I have to set some, hours, designated hours, and this is my time to work, and then this is my time that I'm going to work one-on-one with the kids. And then they're going to do X, Y, and Z. Like it kind of could lead into a good structure and a good schedule, because if not, like everything just runs together, and
Yeah.
every day is not good. Let me just tell you
Yeah.
that, you know.
Yes. Yes. And then you are just so worried about all this checklist and this to-do list. I mean, it seems like it never ends. And that's the
Hmm.
thing too. It's just this, very overwhelming feeling that comes
Yes.
with it. And then you don't feel good about yourself. And I think at the end, you also know that, maybe your children are suffering because of it, your relationship are suffering because of it. I mean, there's so many things that you're also slowly becoming aware, that it
Hmm.
always kind of, then a chain reaction, that, it's so important to just break that, because it
Yeah.
just, just getting worse and worse over time.
Yes.
And that's, that's really sad to be, experiencing. And the beauty about is, and the all of this, and the good news is, there is a way out of it. So it's not one of those things that, oh yes, it's the way I am, and I'm always going to be like that, right? So
Yes.
there is a way out of it, and it's really starts with this awareness, even just being aware that you're doing it, because sometimes we're just so used to this that it
Hmm.
becomes who we are, and we are like I wasn't aware that was happening.
Right.
For most of my life, I had no idea, and so it does, when you get the awareness, and everything starts shifting, because you know that it's no longer serving you. It never
Mhm.
really has, but now you're really sure, okay, this cannot go on like that. And
Right.
with that, with that awareness kicks in, then slowly but surely, there is the ability to make the shifts and changing, one step at a time. And it's,
Right.
and really getting out of your comfort zone. That's a big part of it.
Yes, for sure. Well, thank you. This has been so wonderful. I really, and it's a lot, it's very hopeful to all of us that, maybe, really stretching ourselves a little bit too thin. It's really just knowing that there is that we can get past this, guys, and we can, just take one step at a time and start setting up those healthy boundaries and really, you know, um, just being aware of it. That really it's huge. So, any final thoughts, Pamela? Thank you so much for all of this.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I think, I think it's very important just to really make sure that we know that, as I said, there is a way out.
Mhm.
It's, be patient and kind and with yourself, because again, this doesn't change overnight.
Yes.
And so just in knowing that too, that, it requires some more persistence in trying and with baby step, as I said. But yeah, so patience and definitely, there is a way out of it. I think with these two things, and in the process, being kind to yourself and compassionate.
And those are huge. I mean, those are things that we talk about all the time, even just giving ourselves that grace and that patience,
Hmm.
when dealing with situations. And this is no different. This is one of those
Yeah,
things that we need to really find, what could be triggering some of that overwhelm. And it could be saying yes all the time,
yeah,
and really, giving yourselves that, okay, well, I said yes to one thing this week, or I said no to one thing this
yeah,
week, and, just taking it one step at a time. So
yeah,
hopefully
exactly.
during this time, I mean, maybe that helped some people.
Yes, yes, I really hope so.
And then, and then moving forward, really saying yes to, and I know I'm doing this myself, like really saying yes to, do I really, really want to do that? And I
Mhm.
remember my aunt telling me one time, she was like, if you don't want to do it, like you don't have to do this. And I was like, no, okay, that makes sense. Obviously you're taking care of your kids, you kind of have to do
Yeah,
that. But, you know,
yeah,
but it was like, okay, yes, like when you are looking at all of these things coming in at you all the time, and it's something that you can choose yes or no. Do I want to go to this party? Do I want to go to this event? Do we need to go to this outing? Do I need to take my kid to every single thing that's coming up?
Mhm.
You can start to say no. And I started even doing that myself, because we want to give our kids so much, and sometimes that could add to that, like filling up that schedule.
Yeah,
And then that takes away our time even from us. So really just
yeah.
being careful and conscious about what we're saying yes to is very important. So
Yeah, and you brought up this great point with children's activities. Definitely, like there's so much that is not necessary,
mhm,
that we feel like we have to.
yes,
And so I think if we just look at that, I mean, it's like, there's so much more time. And honestly, the kids are appreciating this too, because they
mhm,
realize they have some downtime, they have some more family time. They just not have to go from one thing to the next,
right,
and you as the parent one to the next too, right?
yep,
And going and bring them to places and pick them up and all of that. And I think it's just important to be aware of it. Is it really necessary, right? Is it
yes,
something that can be tweaked? Maybe it doesn't mean that you have to completely eliminate it, but can that be tweaked? Or maybe it can be eliminated and everybody's happy about it. There's nothing, no problems with it, right?
right,
Just but
right,
looking a little bit more as what's really important, like where are the priorities, because if as a parent you're just running around and you're burning yourself to the ground, what good does it do as
yep,
when you're a parent, as a parent, right? Not just for you but also for your children. So I just
yep,
looking back and see, parenting is already hard enough, can we make it
mhm,
easier? you
yep,
know what is, there's so many things that can be eliminated on each family's to-do list. As just being, again, going back to the priorities, what's really important, and I think, part of this recent time, what happened, with COVID-19 and that, I think it has brought some more perspective. There were so many things we couldn't be doing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Then eventually a lot became virtual, but since some, it's not quite the same, but how much more time, we actually have,
Yes.
beyond, obviously homeschooling, which was kind of an addition for so many families, but,
Yeah.
the school portion away, there was a lot much more before that was after school or maybe before school, like that
Mm-hmm.
now, was a good time to really see, how does it feel without all of these things, and
Right.
what's the advantage that can come and the learning that can come out of this experience.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you joining us because you gave so many great points and so many things that, I could take away. So I'm sure a lot of the moms watching are going to have some wonderful takeaways as well. So, any final words tonight?
Well, I wish everybody a wonderful rest of your evening and day if you eventually watch this replay. And it was just such a pleasure being here tonight. So thank you, Christine.
Yes, thank you so much, Pamela.